We are doing something different today. Every video on this channel up to now has had a hard price ceiling. Under $70,000, under $100,000, under $150,000. And that format works. But it also puts a hard limit on the kind of property you can show, the kind of land that comes with it, and ultimately the kind of deal that makes sense for someone who wants more than just a cheap house. So today the ceiling goes up. $300,000. That is the top of this list. And I know what you were thinking. $300,000 is not cheap. Except that in 2026, for a house with real acreage in Georgia, $300,000 genuinely is cheap. The national median home price right now is pushing $400,000 for a house on a fraction of an acre in a suburb where your neighbors are 20 feet away. $300,000 for a house on 1 acre, 5 acres, 10 acres, 21 acres in Georgia. That is a different conversation entirely. What we are buying today is not just a house. We are buying land. We are buying space. We are buying the ability to do something with the ground under your feet. Whether that is a garden, a small farm, a homestead, a rental, a long-term hold, or just the privacy that most people in this country cannot afford anymore. That is the lens for every single property on this list. 13 properties, all of them in Georgia, all of them with at least 1 acre attached. And we are going from the most expensive down to the cheapest, because the last property on this list is going to make the $300,000 house at the top look like a luxury purchase. Stay with me through the whole thing. The payoff at the end is worth it. Let's get into it. House 13, Marietta, Georgia. $300,000. 1 acre. 4-sided brick. Partial basement. Over 2,600 square feet in Marietta, Georgia. 1 mile from Marietta Square. Let me put that location in context, because it matters more than almost anything else on this list. Cobb County has a median household income of $102,738. That is not a rural county scraping by. That is one of the stronger income demographics in the entire state of Georgia. And you are buying a 4-sided brick house on a full acre within walking distance of one of the most active commercial and residential corridors in the Atlanta metro. The listing is marketed as an investor special, which in plain language means the house needs work, and the seller is not pretending otherwise. The 1949 build date means you are asking the standard mid-century questions: roof condition, electrical panel, plumbing, whether the cast iron lines are intact or failing, heating and cooling age, and the basement. Always the basement on a partial basement house this old. Moisture intrusion, structural movement, mold. Those are the things that can turn a workable rehab into a different project entirely. Get a thorough inspection, and specifically get someone who knows older construction in the ground on that basement. The upside case here is one of the strongest on this entire list. Original hardwood floors, sunroom finished attic space, a private spacious backyard, and an acre in Cobb County. If the inspection comes back clean on the major systems, or if the rehab numbers are controlled, this is the kind of brick ranch that appreciates in a market where Cobb County property values have consistently outperformed the state average. The Zestimate on this property is $295,600, which tells you the market is not discounting it heavily even in its current condition. Comparable renovated homes in this corridor of Marietta are selling well above $300,000. This is not a rural long-hold play. This is a location play in a strong income county with real buyer demand and real exit options, whether you are flipping or holding for rent. At $300,000, this is the most expensive house on this list. It is also the one with the most defensible market behind it. That is the top of the list. Marietta, Cobb County, 1 acre of brick construction at $300,000. Now let us stay in the Atlanta metro and see what the same price gets you when you move south. House 12, Locust Grove, Georgia. Same price, different county, different story. Henry County sits in the South Metro Atlanta growth corridor, one of the fastest expanding suburban markets in the state over the last decade. The median household income in Henry County is $83,146. Not as strong as Cobb, but still well above the state average, and the growth trajectory in this county has been consistent. People are moving here from Atlanta proper because they can get more house, more land, and more space without sacrificing access to the metro employment base. 1193 New Hope Road is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, just over 2,000 square feet on 2 full acres. Built in 1999, which is the detail that separates it from everything else at this price point on this list. A 1999 build means you are not having the mid-century inspection conversation. The electrical is modern. The plumbing is modern. The construction methods are modern. The major systems question becomes about age and condition, rather than about whether the original infrastructure even meets current code. The listing has been on Zillow for approximately 58 to 60 days, which tells you the market has not absorbed it instantly. That is not necessarily a red flag. It may simply reflect that the right buyer has not found it yet. But it does suggest there may be negotiation room if the condition warrants it. Comparable properties on the same road have sold in the $299,000 to $325,000 range, so the pricing is consistent with the local market. 2 acres in Henry County for $300,000 is real value in 2026. This is a stable suburban buy with modern construction, a real income base around it, and the kind of land that is increasingly hard to find at this price in the metro fringe. 2 properties at the same price. 2 different metro stories. Now we drop $100 and pick up move-in ready status, which changes the conversation entirely. House 11, McDonough, Georgia, $299,900. Still Henry County. Still the South Metro corridor, but this one comes with a label that none of the other properties on this list carry. Move-in ready. Full brick ranch. 1.5 acres, updated kitchen with granite countertops, updated bathrooms with granite, newer windows, newer roof, expanded front patio, full-length rear deck, hardwood floors throughout at $299,900. This is the closest thing to a retail-ready property on this list, and that cuts both ways. The upside is clear. You are not walking into a rehab project. The capital expenditure risk is substantially lower than on most of what we will look at today. For an owner-occupant who wants to move in and start living on a brick ranch with a deck and a yard in Henry County, this is a clean option. For a landlord who wants a rental property that does not require 6 months of renovation before it generates income, this is a viable path. The limitation is equally clear. At nearly $300,000 on a 1,625 square foot house, the price per square foot is approximately $184. That is the highest price per square foot on this list. There is less forced appreciation to extract here because the seller has already done the work and priced it accordingly. The margin for an investor is thinner than on any of the fixer plays coming up on this list. But not every purchase needs to be a deep discount flip. A well-maintained brick ranch on 1.5 acres in Henry County with verified newer roof and windows is a long-term hold asset. It will not make you rich overnight. It will hold its value and generate consistent rent in a county where the employment base is real and growing. Sometimes that is exactly what the situation calls for. That closes out the Metro Atlanta tier. 3 houses, all Henry and Cobb County, all with real infrastructure and real buyer demand behind them. Now we leave the suburbs and go somewhere completely different. 21 acres different. House 10, Toomsboro, Georgia. 21 acres. Let that number sit for a moment before we talk about anything else. 21 acres in Middle Georgia for $275,000. And the seller just cut the price by $20,000 as of May 3rd. The zestimate on this property is $451,000, which you should take with some caution because rural estimates and large acreage parcels do not always produce reliable automated valuations. But even discounting the zestimate significantly, the land-to-price ratio here is the most dramatic shift on this list. This is Wilkinson County, deep middle Georgia, Toomsboro, population a few hundred. The median household income in Wilkinson County is $45,465. That tells you what the local rental market looks like and what the resale buyer pool looks like, which is modest and patient, not deep and fast-moving. You do not buy a 21-acre farm in Wilkinson County and expect to flip it in 90 days. That is not how this market works. What you do buy is a 1940 farmhouse on 21 acres that could function as a homestead, a hobby farm, a hunting property, a recreational retreat, a long-term land bank, or a primary residence for someone who wants to live in quiet middle Georgia on a piece of land large enough to do something real with. The house itself is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,800 square feet, solid mid-century footprint. But the 1940 build date means the inspection conversation is a serious one. Foundation, structure, roof, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. All of it. And specifically on a rural property of this size, you are also verifying the well, the septic system, the road access. Whether any of the acreage sits in a floodplain or wetland designation, and what the timber situation looks like if there's meaningful tree coverage. The Zillow listing classifies this as a farm, which is accurate. This is not a suburban house with a big backyard. This is a working land property that requires a buyer who understands what 21 acres actually means in terms of maintenance, liability, and long-term stewardship. The reward for that buyer is a piece of middle Georgia at a price per acre that is hard to find in this state right now. 21 acres for $275,000. That is the land play. But the next house flips the script entirely because it is not about the land. It is about the house. And the house is almost impossible to explain at this price. House 9, Hephzibah, Georgia, $274,900. $65 per square foot. That is the number that made me stop on this listing. 4,230 square feet, 5 bedrooms, nearly 15 acres for $274,900. $65 per square foot. To put that in context, the McDonough move-in ready house we just looked at is $184 per square foot. The Marietta Brick Ranch is $113. This house is $65 on nearly 15 acres with 5 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. Built in 1986, which means you are not dealing with original 1940s systems. You are dealing with 80s era construction that has had nearly 40 years to either be maintained or to decline. The listing details tell you this is not a gutted shell. Large center island, true hardwood stair treads, jetted garden soaker tub, propane cooktop stove, custom tiled shower, inviting porches, great room, den, office, scenic view. This was a well-appointed house when it was built, and the description suggests it retains character. But a 4,000 square foot house on 15 acres built in 1986 carries maintenance costs and inspection complexity that a smaller, newer property does not. Roof on a structure this size is a major line item. Multiple HVAC systems. A house this size almost certainly has more than one zone. Plumbing across 4 bathrooms. Septic capacity for 5 bedrooms. Well conditioned. And any structural issues in a house this large can compound quickly. Hephzibah is in Richmond County. Augusta is the major city in this county. The Richmond County median household income is $55,637, with a poverty rate of 19%. That is a weaker economic base than Cobb or Henry County, but Augusta itself has real economic anchors. Piedmont Augusta Hospital System, Augusta University, and the presence of Fort Eisenhower, formerly Fort Gordon, which employs tens of thousands of people in the region and creates a consistent military family rental market. The buyer for this property is someone who can manage a large house inspection thoroughly and is not scared by the scale of the project. The reward, if the bones are good, is a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house on nearly 15 acres in Augusta's western corridor for under $275,000. That combination does not come up often at any price point. The inspection decides everything here. Go in with a contractor, not just a home inspector. 4,000 square feet on 15 acres at $65 per square foot. That is either the deal of this entire list or the money pit of this list, and only the inspection will tell you which. Now we drop $60,000 and pick up a completely different kind of story. House 8, Fort Gaines, Georgia, $215,000, 2016. That is the most recently built house on this entire list by a significant margin, and it has been sitting on the market for 153 days with a $35,000 price cut as of May 5th. Those two facts together tell you something, and you need to understand what before you run any numbers. Fort Gaines is in Clay County, deep southwest Georgia, near Lake Eufaula, one of the largest reservoirs in the southeastern United States, and a genuine recreational destination for fishing, boating, and outdoor activity. The house itself is farmhouse style. French doors, open beams, scenic view, inviting porches. A 2016 build means modern construction standards, no deferred maintenance on systems, no mid-century inspection surprises. At $215,000 after the price cut, you are buying new era construction with character details in a rural setting. The challenge is Clay County itself. The median household income is $49,147, with a poverty rate of 25.7%. That is the highest poverty rate on this list, and it matters because it defines the buyer pool and the rental ceiling in this specific market. 153 days on market in a county with this income profile is the market telling you something about demand. Not necessarily about the house, but about the depth of qualified buyers and renters in Clay County. The case for this one is recreational and lifestyle, not pure investment yield. If you want a newer build farmhouse-style property near Lake Eufaula at a price that reflects the rural county, rather than the recreation value, this has appeal. The $35,000 price cut signals there is further negotiation room. What you need to verify is the lot size. The listing did not surface acreage clearly, and that is information you pull before any serious look. Newer build, big price cut, recreational corridor. Now we cross under $200,000 for the first time on this list, and we get 9 acres in exchange. House 7, Sylvania, Georgia, under $200,000, 9 acres, 2,205 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. And it is an in-town property, meaning you get the land without the complete rural isolation that some of the other deep Georgia listings carry. Sylvania is the county seat of Screven County in East Georgia, which puts it in the most stable residential demand position in its county. The listing notes additional wooded acres beyond the primary parcel, which suggests the 9-acre figure may understate the total land story. That is a detail worth clarifying with the listing agent before you assign a firm value to the land component. At $90 per square foot on a 1933 house with 9 acres, this is one of the better raw value propositions on this list from a pure price to land and size ratio. But a 1933 build in Screven County carries the same inspection requirements every old house on this list carries, and then some. The structure, the foundation, the electrical, the plumbing, the roof. You are inspecting everything, and you are doing it with someone who knows old construction. The upside of old construction in Georgia is that heart pine framing from this era, if it has not been compromised by moisture or termites, is often more structurally sound than anything built in the last 30 years. The downside is that if it has been compromised, You are looking at a project scope that can run past your budget quickly. Screven County has a median household income of $52,792 and a poverty rate of 21.1%. Modest income, rural market, limited resale velocity. This is a long hold or primary residence buy, not a quick flip. But 9 acres with a 2,000 square foot house in a county seat for under $200,000 is a combination that has legitimate appeal for the right buyer. 9 acres for under $200,000. Now we go further into Georgia and the price drops again. This time to territory where the math starts to look genuinely different. House 6, Alma, Georgia, $159,000. 1 acre, nearly 1,900 square feet, built in 1970, and it has been on the market for 166 days. That last number deserves attention. 166 days on market in a small Georgia town means either the price is above where the local market wants to be, the condition has issues the listing is not fully disclosing, or the demand for this specific property type in Alma is simply thin, probably some combination of all three. What that also means is that a buyer who has done their homework and comes in with a real inspection and a realistic offer has meaningful negotiation leverage here. Alma is the county seat of Bacon County in southeast Georgia. The Bacon County median household income is $44,694 with a poverty rate of 20.7%. The rental ceiling and resale buyer pool in this market are both modest. 1 bathroom on a nearly 1,900 square foot house limits the appeal to a significant portion of potential renters and buyers. If a second bathroom can be added within the existing footprint, that single improvement changes the property's marketability substantially. The positive case is straightforward. 1970 construction is more manageable than 1930. 1 acre, decent square footage, and a seller who has been sitting on this property for nearly 6 months is likely more motivated than the listing price currently reflects. This is a rural southeast Georgia hold. Patient money, modest yield, long runway. $159,000 for a long market fixer in Bacon County. Now we move to Miller County and find something cleaner at a lower price. House 5, Colquitt, Georgia, $145,000. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,636 square feet. 1.1 acres. Well-kept 1964 ranch with original charm still intact. Close to downtown Colquitt, $145,000. This is the most conventionally livable property in the sub-200,000 tier on this list. The 2-bathroom configuration immediately separates it from the 1-bath houses we have looked at and will look at. That floor plan makes it more rentable and more resellable to a wider pool of buyers. The 1964 build date puts it in the range where a well-maintained house can be genuinely solid. Not as old as the 1930s and 40s properties, not as new as the 1980s and 90s, but a generation of construction where brick ranches in Georgia often held up well. Original charm in a listing description is code for the cosmetics are dated, which is a different problem than systems failure. Dated cosmetics cost money to update, but they are predictable. A kitchen refresh, new flooring, updated fixtures? Those are line items you can estimate before you buy. They are not the same as discovering that the electrical panel is original or the plumbing is cast iron. The inspection here is about confirming the systems have been touched over the decades, not just the cosmetics. Miller County has a median household income of $51,425 and a poverty rate of 20.3%. Colquitt is a small southwest Georgia town. The rental market and resale velocity are both modest. But comparable listings in the immediate area show a wide range from $60,000 up to nearly $300,000, which tells you condition and acreage drive values significantly in this market. And a clean, updated 3-2 ranch on an acre has real relative value here. A clean 3-2 ranch in Colquitt, solid, livable, and reasonably priced for what it is. Now we go to Taliaferro County and a house with a different kind of story entirely. House 4, Crawfordville, Georgia, $130,000. 1922, 104 years old, and it is described as a charming historic home in the heart of Taliaferro County, on 3 acres, listed at $130,000. Taliaferro County is one of the smallest counties in Georgia by population, roughly 1,500 people. That is not a typo, 1,500 people in the entire county, which means the resale buyer pool is essentially the people who specifically want to live in Taliaferro County or nearby, plus investors looking for a rural, historic character property at a low entry point. The county median household income is $52,500, with a poverty rate of 23.4%. The commute times are long, 32.8 minutes average, because the nearest employment centers are Augusta, Athens, or the Outer Atlanta Ring. So why is it on this list? Because at $130,000 for 1,836 square feet of genuine historic character on 3 acres, the price-to-material ratio is hard to ignore for the right buyer. A house built in 1922 that is still standing and still being marketed as livable has structural bones that earned their reputation over a century. Heart pine, old-growth timber framing, thick plaster walls. This generation of construction was built with materials that do not exist in the supply chain anymore. Verify the price. There was a $160,000 reference in an older listing record, so confirm the current active price before you make any moves. 2 bedrooms and 1 bath is the real limitation here for rental or resale breadth. But as a primary residence for someone who wants 3 acres, historic character, and quiet small-town Georgia at a price well under $200,000, this has genuine appeal that numbers alone do not fully capture. A 100-year-old house on 3 acres in the smallest county in Georgia, historic character at a rural price. Now we cross under $110,000. House 3, Dry Branch, Georgia, approximately $95,000. 2.1 acres, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Country home in Twiggs County, described simply as a country home situated on 2.1 acres, built in 1925. This is a foreclosure, bank-owned, sold as is, and the purchase process follows the foreclosure acquisition rules rather than a standard seller negotiation. That means cash or hard money is the most likely path. There is no seller disclosure, and the bank will not fix anything before closing. There is a data verification note on this property. The Zillow listing has some conflicting information across records. A nearby page showed a different square footage of 1,408 square feet versus the primary figure of 1,106. And there is a price reference in one result to a $38,000 figure that appears to belong to a different mismatched listing. The point is, verify the current active price and confirm the correct parcel before you assign any firm numbers to this one. Pull the Twiggs County tax records directly and match the parcel ID to the Zillow listing to confirm you are looking at the right property. If the final price lands around $95,000 on 2+ acres in Twiggs County, the comparable sales picture around it is telling. A nearby property sold for $249,000 in December 2025. Another sold for $98,500 in February 2026. A third sold for $52,500 in March 2026. That range tells you the Twiggs County market is highly condition and location dependent. The same county produces wildly different sale prices based on what you are actually buying. Twiggs County sits just west of Macon, the Macon market this channel has covered before. That proximity to a real city with real employment anchors gives Twiggs County more economic connective tissue than some of the truly isolated rural counties on this list. Median household income is $56,324. For a 3-2 house on 2 acres at approximately $95,000, the math could work, and the foreclosure status means there may be negotiation room depending on how long the bank has been holding it. Verify the current active price and confirm parcel details directly before proceeding. Under $100,000, 2 acres. A foreclosure just west of Macon. Now we go to Tenniel and nearly 5 acres for $99,000. House 2, Tenniel, Georgia. 1920 build. 1,653 square feet. Coldwell Banker is listing it as a project property with lots of potential, being sold as is. Project. As is. Those 2 words from a national brand brokerage are the honest version of a disclosure. The seller knows what they have, they are pricing it for someone who can handle it, and they are not going to negotiate repairs. That is not necessarily bad. It is just a different kind of transaction. The buyer who walks into an as-is project sale with a thorough inspection, a contractor assessment, and a clear rehab budget is in a different position than the buyer who walks in hoping for the best. 4.71 acres at $99,000 in Washington County is genuinely interesting from a land value standpoint. Kaolin clay, Washington County produces a significant share of the world's kaolin supply, creates an industrial employment base in this area that most rural Georgia counties do not have. Tenniel is a small town, but it sits in a county with a real economic anchor, which gives the rental and resale market slightly more stability than a purely agricultural rural county. The 1920 build is the central inspection story here. Foundation, structure, electrical, whether it is original knob and tube or has been updated, plumbing, roof, and HVAC, 1 bathroom on 1,653 square feet is the layout limitation that will matter to buyers and renters. If the floor plan allows for a second bath addition, and a house this size from this era often has the space for it, that single improvement changes the property's appeal substantially. Budget for a full systems assessment and a realistic rehab number before you assign any value to this one. Under $100,000 for nearly 5 acres in Washington County. That is the number. The project scope is the variable. $99,000 for nearly 5 acres. A project, but a real one, with land attached. And now, the house I have been holding. The one at the bottom of this list that makes the $300,000 Marietta property look like a luxury purchase by comparison. House 1, Fitzgerald, Georgia, $75,000. 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, approximately 1,900 square feet, 6.1 acres. In Fitzgerald, Georgia. There is a pricing note on this one. The Zillow listing has shown figures between $75,000 and $89,900, depending on the source and the date pulled. So verify the current active price directly before any conversation with the listing agent. The range itself tells you the seller is working toward a number, not locked into one, which is negotiating information. Now here is what you need to understand about this listing before you run any numbers. The listing explicitly states reported damage and requires that all buyers verify condition. It is being sold as is. The Zillow page shows 4,031 views and 257 saves, which means a significant number of people have looked at this and not pulled the trigger. That is not random. That is the market collectively deciding that the reported damage represents enough risk to keep most buyers on the sideline. What that creates for a buyer who goes in prepared is an opportunity that most people are walking away from. 5 bedrooms on 6 acres in Ben Hill County at $75,000, even with reported damage, has a ceiling that the entry price does not reflect if the damage is manageable. The question is entirely what the damage is. Water intrusion and structural movement are different problems than cosmetic deterioration and deferred maintenance. One of those is a manageable rehab. The other can consume a budget before you understand what happened. Ben Hill County has a median household income of $41,758 and a poverty rate of 22.2%. Fitzgerald is a small South Georgia city. It is actually known as the only city founded jointly by Union and Confederate veterans after the Civil War, which is a piece of local history that has genuine tourism and character value. The rental market is modest. The resale ceiling in this county is not going to make you wealthy. But at $75,000 for 5 bedrooms on 6 acres, the cash-on-cash return on a controlled rehabilitation could produce a number that makes sense even in a modest income market. The buyer who gets this one is not lucky. They went out there. They inspected it. They priced the damage accurately. They had a contractor in the house before they made an offer, and they bought it knowing exactly what they were getting into. That is the difference between a deal and a disaster at this price point. And it is entirely within the buyer's control. 13 properties, all of them in Georgia, all of them with land, and a price range that goes from $300,000 at the top to $75,000 at the bottom. Here is what that range actually tells you. Land in Georgia is still accessible at prices that do not exist in most of this country. Whether you want a Cobb County brick ranch near Marietta Square at the top of the market, or a 5-bedroom fixer on 6 acres in South Georgia at the bottom, the land component is real. The acreage is real, and the prices are real. None of these properties are manufactured for a video. Every single one is a live listing with a URL in the description. The framework is the same at every price point. Inspection first, rehab estimate second, market comps third, rental analysis fourth. In that order. Before you make an offer, not after. Drop a comment and tell me which one you would go after. Pick a number, 1 through 13, and tell me what about it makes sense for your situation. Metro Atlanta at $300,000, or 6 acres in South Georgia at $75,000. I want to know where your head is at. I read every comment. And tell me what you want to see next. Do we go back to the price floors? Under $100,000? Under $50,000? Or do we stay in this range and do another state with land? Let me know and I will build it. Subscribe if you are not already. We are doing more of this.